Congratulations, you two, again, sincerely. How does it feel? Because I feel like when I interviewed you guys last time, it was a little bit more fresh. How does it feel now that like the dust has kind of settled? You know, you're about to start back up again.
True.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say it is definitely, honestly, for me personally, it's pretty much the same feeling. Like, I honestly can't believe that I get to do this job every day, and it still feels kind of like it did the first day. Whether it's, the meetings that we do or just like meetings one on one with me and Abe, like, I feel like we're constantly filled with new ideas. And now that we're less than 1 week away from the school year, we're just very, very ready. But I'm just very, very happy with where I am in my position and the rest of CSUN.
Yeah, and I feel like there's always something new. I feel like at the beginning, the initial feeling of, wow, we're in these positions was, what was really making it seem fulfilling. But now that we're actually doing the work and we're passing resolutions and we're really beginning, I think every day there's a new thing that makes me feel fulfilled, which is super, super nice because that's honestly what I want to feel when I work, and it doesn't even feel like work with
No,
us.
yeah.
So yeah, that's great.
So what have been, you just posted your first 100 days, snaps all around. What have been some common themes or ideas or ways that you've grown in the first 100 days?
I think I've grown in multiple ways, whether it was throughout our campaign or currently. But I would say the best ways that I've grown is I think I'm much more confident in my ability to serve as president. I think I didn't really know what that role meant, but now that I'm here, I feel like I've always kind of been doing this role. It's just now that I have the actual voice and platform to complete the things that we want to do. So I feel like I'm definitely more confident and more aware of my ability. And honestly, I think I'm just very happy with knowing the change that I can create, especially just within CSUN internally and externally, like as we're slowly going into in-person events and interacting with different students. I feel like that is when I've really realized the change that I'm able to create.
Yeah, and I agree with that because I think it's really easy to get imposter syndrome and say, why am I here? Why am I sitting in this room and everyone is around me and they're just like all listening to what we want to do or what we want? And I think with the work actually beginning, I've been able to understand that we were chosen into these roles and we are definitely a team. I was just talking to Caren the other day about how I forget sometimes that I can ask her for help or that it's just a known thing that we have each other's backs and we're there to support each other within the presidency and just our friendships in general. So I think my thing that's really been able to develop in the first 100 days is being able to, yes, I was already friends with Caren and we ran a great campaign together and it was amazing, but now it's really solidified in the sense that how do you want to do it? How do I want to do it? Let's talk and let's make it happen together. And if anything kind of arises in between, we have each other's back. So that's nice. Yeah.
How did you guys first get started or get interested in CSUN?
Oh, I think that we both have different answers for this in the sense that I joined my first CSUN meeting when I got appointed as an intern was 1 week before my first day of college. I just knew I wanted to get involved, and I was really into student government in high school, and I quickly learned that they are nowhere near the same thing at all. But upon entering college, I knew I wanted to get involved, so I kind of joined a lot of things at UNLV. Like I was part of Rebel Events Board for a bit, I joined a sorority, like all within my first semester, and just kind of getting to know everything. And within CSUN, I think that CSUN is very different from all of the organizations I've joined before. And at first, I think that deterred me a little just because it is very, especially when you go into a Senate meeting, it's just a very formal setting that a lot of people are not used to. And so upon that, once I kind of saw that the impact you were able to create, whether it was through like the legislation or just meeting all of the different people, like it's people within CSUN that got me involved in joining a sorority or connected me to all of these different people around campus. And I think that's what ultimately, it's not really about how I joined CSUN, but why I chose to stay.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we do have very different kind of journeys. I was not involved at all when I came into UNLV. I was originally an architecture major, which was fantastic. I loved it a lot. But I started realizing slowly, particularly with kind of the buildup that came with COVID on social terms as well. And I think with that buildup, I was really able to gauge a sense of what I really was passionate about. And although architecture was something that I was good at, it wasn't necessarily something that I felt like was fulfilling my need for change and to create change and advocate. And so that's kind of where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take the leap. I'm going to join the Senate. And it worked out. I wasn't an intern, unfortunately. I wish I had that little opportunity. But I just kind of jumped in, joined the Senate, became her vice chair of a committee, then took over the committee, and now we ran together, and it was great. But it's been a very interesting journey to see myself jump from point A to point B so quickly.
What have been some like common, or maybe not common, but some misconceptions about CSUN that you like had to be in to like disprove? You know, what's something that surprised you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I have one.
Okay.
I think mine is that CSUN doesn't do anything. I think that's one of the biggest ones, and it's not necessarily at fault of the students for thinking that or at fault of CSUN. I think the problem is the visibility. And particularly with COVID-19, it was very, very difficult to gauge that visibility. But since our campaign and since all of our campaign efforts were virtually, we had to be able to, one, take what we learned from that almost year virtual and operating within CSUN virtually and utilize that experience into the campaign to be able to say, this is something that's happening. It's something that's not StuCo, it's not student council, it's a whole government structure, and you need to get involved because it's that important. And I feel like we were able to do that successfully, and because now we're able to kind of come together in our term and say, how are we going to continue that while also continuing now what we didn't get to experience before, which is the in-person aspect. And so I think that's my biggest thing. Now we've had a lot of students start applying to Senate, reaching out saying, whoa, I didn't know that you did all of these things, that these resources were available, which is fantastic because that means something's working, but people still don't know that it's something that's going on. So our biggest thing now is making sure that every last student knows not only that we exist, but we exist and we have this resource for you, this scholarship for you, this resource for you, and so on and so forth. So I think that's mine.
And then I think that's a really good misconception as well. And besides that, I think one of the other misconceptions about CSUN is, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a misconception, but I think that a lot of times CSUN is viewed as a space that's really competitive in nature. And it can be if it's created that way. Obviously, like myself and Abe ran a campaign. We've ran Senate campaigns before, which are naturally just competitive. But once you come into that space, at the end of the day, we're all just students who want to make UNLV and, the state of Nevada just a better place, whatever means that takes. And so I feel like through teamwork and honestly right-intentioned people, that's really how we're able to create that change and kind of get rid of that competitive nature, because ultimately our willingness to help others should overcome that competitive nature. So I would say that's one of them.
And I think it's working now.
Yeah,
I mean, we just filled our Senate yesterday, which is fantastic. We haven't had a full Senate in a while, and everyone is so beautifully not only qualified but just well-intentioned, and I think it's really, really important. I'm super proud of our team so far. So yeah.
So what has been some things that you guys have learned about teamwork, or what are some important traits for teamwork, whether it be just between you two, between the Senate in general, or any of your other RSOs you've been a part of?
Sure. I think trust.
Yes.
I think trust is above honestly everything else, especially because within this field of kind of the political community and advocacy work, you are really standing on a thin line in saying, I'm going to speak over people and I'm going to amplify the voices of other people. So I think with that, and our team particularly right now, that really do understand that there's a difference and that there's a line that we can't cross and that we have to have in the back of our heads at all times, that's been able to say, kind of take that into account while we're having these conversations with our team. We were doing the hiring process. We interviewed so many, I can't even count that high at this point. But throughout this process, we've been able to gauge what kind of people we want within this organization, which is inclusive, which is compassionate, which is leadership in general, because all of these people, I think we have great ideas, but at the end of the day, we want to be able to not only have them trust us and say, you can come to us if something isn't functioning, if you don't know what to do, let me know and I'll help you. But at the same time, us have the trust in them that we're two people, we have great ideas, but we only have the ideas of the capacity at two people. So I think all of them have such amazing kind of potentials, and the ideas that they put forth have really been able to give me the sense of I need to trust that everyone else is doing an amazing job, and they are. So it's working, yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say something very similar, and especially because in, I think, both of our roles, we interact a lot with higher administration, like NSHE, all of the Board of Regents, a lot of higher education sort of things that necessarily don't pertain to the entirety of CSUN. And so to be able to trust all of our departments and all of the Senate and know that they can do their job without us kind of overseeing or nitpicking at the things they do. It's something that I have definitely had to learn, especially as someone who was so hands-on when I was previously a senator. Yeah. And so to just kind of completely step away and say, there's new people who can do that, this is my job now, and just completely trust them has been the biggest key factor into making sure that CSUN works efficiently on all branches.
Awesome. So why was it important for you guys personally to hold these positions? Like you just touched on, like the different responsibilities and stuff that specifically come with these positions. Why is it important that it's you?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yes, that is a good question.
Go ahead.
I think that it was very important for me personally to hold this position because I think my go-to answer is like, it's not about the title or anything like that. And although that's a very valid answer, I ultimately just think that I had to trust myself enough to know that I could not only be a representative, but I had what it takes to be a representative for all of these different communities a part of UNLV. And just beyond that, advocate for the different needs of students, not only just, as a Lee Business School student, but a part of all of these colleges, and know that I not only have the capability, but also the previous CSUN knowledge and UNLV knowledge to fully advocate on all fronts. And I think the biggest thing that kind of pushed me to run is my want for more, and not just in the case of myself, but my want to always push and ask the question why not in all different aspects and be able to kind of push the boundaries. And I think that I was the person best suited for that, but not only in that sense, I think I was the best person suited for that with Abe. Like I could not have done this without being his partner, and I feel like us together were able to balance each other out so well to where we have already made strides towards bettering the UNLV community, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, it has been really fun, and it's actually so good to hear her say that, because I feel like we come from the same place of trusting ourselves. For me in particular, it was a little different because I came into the Senate originally, and it was because I'm an undocumented student, and there's no undocumented student representation, unfortunately, and there's no financial aid that we receive, and there's no this and there's no that. And I think that a lot of the times it's not necessarily the fault of the institution, it's the fault of the institution not wanting to give people the opportunity to be in that space so that that voice can be heard. And so I think with that's kind of why I wanted to join, and my issue with trust as well before coming into this role is the same. I mean, can I trust myself to not only advocate for this community that already isn't being advocated for, that I'm a part of, but all of these other communities that I'm not and will not be a part of, and in a way that, like I mentioned, is not going to directly overtake what their needs and voices are, but to amplify them and just represent them. And luckily, I've been able to kind of go through my own personal journey and realizing that I can trust myself. Recently, actually, I finally came out publicly to the LGBTQI plus community. And I think with that, that was a lot of my hesitation as well internally, because I felt like if I can't advocate for a community that I'm a part of, how am I expected to do it for all of these separate ones? And so I got so consumed in accomplishing all the other ones that I didn't really think about my own. And now that I've been able to do that, I feel like I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I can sit down, listen, use my own experiences and say, this is the change that needs to be created, and just do it.
How has your involvement, whether it be with CSUN or otherwise, affected your education or how you feel about your career or how your career path is going?
Ooh. I'll start so I can give you time for this one. But I'm a little more solid with mine, I guess. Like I said before, I was an architecture major, but now I'm a poli-sci student with public policy as my minor. And it's been perfect. I mean, especially with the transition into CSUN and community and leadership roles, I've been able to kind of gauge where I want to go. And with that, I've been able to connect with so many other beautiful organizations, both locally on an international scale, the national scale, which has been fantastic. And that's been able to kind of guided me in the right direction and solidifying what I thought was such a crazy dream before. But now being in these roles, and it is a really great thing to kind of, I want to run for office eventually. I want to run for Congress in a congressional district, which is fantastic. But now that you're in these roles, you really start realizing that it's not about as vast as you see it. It's just about going, wanting it, and doing it. And I think it's really just about that. And I use that example a lot as well because I think youth are particularly now, after COVID, a little more hesitant to just kind of take that jump and take the leap because they're not sure if it'll work out or if it's even what they want to do. And I think something I always say is college is for that. The reason that you're going to college is to figure yourself out, what you want to do, and CSUN in the most significant way has been able to provide me with that and provide so many other people with the opportunity that if it's to run for office or not, I mean, we have senators from every single college and you're able to kind of see that you have the potential if you want to, and if it's with this or not, you can do whatever you want, which is cool.
I think that for me personally, I came into college already declared as a business marketing major. I'm still a business marketing major. And although that's been really great, I think I've always been the type of person who knows exactly what I want. And so then to kind of go into CSUN and now in this role, and as much as, honestly, I'm just going to admit it, this role has completely transformed how I view myself, how I view the community around me, and what I'm capable of as well. And so I think that in terms of my career, I've just been at this kind of forefront of, okay, I'm a business marketing major, but I also really, really like public policy. It's my minor. And I think that it's also directly related to the impact I'm able to make through CSUN as well. And so now I'm not 100% sure what I want to do in the future. And I think that's okay too. But now I know that if I did decide to go the policy route, I'm capable of that. And if I'm going the business marketing route, I'm 100% capable of either path I choose to take. And if I'm able to combine them in the future, even better. But I think that CSUN has definitely given me the confidence to say, if I ever did want to run for office, or if I ever did want to take on these roles at different companies, I'm fully capable of doing so. And I probably can perform it better than I personally think I can. So that's what I would say to that.
Kind of reflecting back, what have been some of the most proud or fulfilling moments since you've been a part of CSUN?
That is the hardest question I've ever gotten.
That is a hard question, just because
CSUN is fulfilling in general.
CSUN is fulfilling, and I think that every day, every meeting, me and Abe have some little moment. Where we're like, oh my gosh, I love it here so bad. So it's very difficult to pick like our top ones. I would say in August, we've had 2 summer Senate meetings, and in each one, we've been able to pass a resolution or pass a bill or pass some sort of meaningful legislation. And those have been some of my favorite moments because they've been summer projects that not even summer projects, they've been projects that we've wanted to complete during our term. And the fact that we were not only able to complete it before the semester begins, but be able to kind of have all of CSUN be like, we're with you on this. Like, we want to support you in this endeavor. And so one of them was regarding the student health insurance proposal. The other one was providing New York Times subscriptions for all of the undergraduate student body, and the fact that we were able to complete both of our goals, and not just for us, but they're goals that impact every single person in the undergraduate student population. That has been one of my favorite moments because we've been able to see the change we're able to make and really advocate for students in the truest way possible.
Yeah, those, oh wow, you have such good moments. Yeah, we have this little thing that we do when we like present a resolution. You know exactly what I'm gonna say. When we present a resolution or a bill and kind of propose an idea, and we like get the Senate to like vote yes on it. Nobody can see because we like do it like underneath the table, but we always like grab hands. And I think those are my favorite moments, especially because like those are big wins, but moments like that I'm able to share with Caren, I think, particularly because we've been able to like go through so much together, have been my favorite ones, especially the little wins. I mean, like we've had really good outcomes throughout the summer before the term starts. I know this was completely on the Muslim Student Association. I mean, they did this on their own. They really pushed for it, but we were finally able to at least help a little bit in the conversation to get them their prayer room. We looked at the space and watching them ask questions, tell administration what they want, and look at the space that they've been so long in a fight for, to like be able to obtain it was one of the best moments I've ever seen. Like, I truly felt like, you know what, like this was all them, and all we did was, like, make sure the conversation like happened, and that someone was following up, particularly Caren. I mean, this is something that we were pushing for. She was emailing them back to back, and it was happening, and it is happening just because we had the conversation and we pushed for it. And I think that's how everything kind of starts. And a lot of people forget that they have that capacity because they don't feel like, oh, I can just ask and it'll happen. But a lot of the times, if you do it correctly, it can. And that's been a really good win for us.
And I just really quickly wanted to add that I think a lot of times in any proposal, anything regarding the university, like construction or things like that, it's always like a long and oftentimes difficult conversation, and it can be. But I think that something that we found really significant is if you just ask the question, if you just continue to follow up, you can honestly do anything that you set your mind to. And I think that's been really impactful, because if we're able to do it, anybody within CSUN, any student is able to make the impact that we've created. It's not something that's extraordinary that, like, yes, me and Abe are amazing and we've done all this. Like, any student can do this. And I feel like we're just continuing to prove that as we continue to go forward.
Yeah, you want it, you got it.
Awesome. Second to last question, what would you tell to students who are considering joining CSUN, but maybe they're nervous, they're not sure? What would you tell the students that are thinking about it?
Go ahead.
I would say students who want to get involved is to just take the leap of faith. Just take the step. And if you don't end up liking it, you can always leave. But CSUN has the capacity to completely change you if you let it. And I know that sounds super dramatic, but it does. It did for me. And especially when I first joined, I immediately started off as an intern. Like, I didn't just go to a meeting and like observe and see it was for me. I just stepped into this role, and I was a little deterred by it at first just because it was a little overwhelming, but I've slowly fallen in love with student government, with the idea of what CSUN can do and continues to do. And so if anyone wants to get involved, like, take the leap of faith, send the email, send the DM. Like, I got involved through an Instagram DM. It really just takes one message and one decision to completely change your college experience. And that's what it's done for me, and I think it could happen for anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I came into the Senate my very first time, and I was not expecting that. Everyone's all professional, they're suited up, they all speak in like Robert's Rules of Order, they have Nevada open meeting law, everything is very structured, there's branches, everyone knows exactly how to make motions. It's very overwhelming coming into it at first, because you're like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here, I have no idea what's going on. And now I'm sitting here, and I think, and it happened like that, it happened so quickly, and it's giving you a chance to be able to be a part of something, and something that does good. And I think that is really at the core of CSUN and why I love CSUN so much, because at the end of the day, we just have a collective of people that want to do good, however that may look. And I think that having that little group in one place, and such a diverse group at that, we have one of the most diverse teams now that UNLV has ever seen. And I think having that really provides you not only with that sense of fulfillment and community, but you're also able to meet a lot of amazing people. You're able to say, hey, like, oh, you're in this org, I want to join this org, I want to discover this and do this project and meet these people. And CSUN is the most perfect and pivotal way of showing you everything that the university has to offer for your college experience. And I would recommend it to the top, but I mean, I'm biased. So.
So what should we be looking forward to this school year? Is there any,
Okay, I'll start and you can go off of what I don't say. Okay, so firstly, oh my gosh, of all these amazing things. I'll start with my baby. Baby, I have been in communication with the community garden, and kind of what that looks like. We used to have a community garden at UNLV, but it wasn't as high functioning, and after COVID-19, it fell through. So we're working with the new coordinator for the garden to be able to find a way to reinstate this garden, make it bigger. We want to fund some beds, have different organizations around campus come and be able to do kind of more of a community event to, one, bring the community together, reinstate the garden. Also, we're having talks of how we can collaborate the garden with the food pantry, which is also available to all students to be able to go if you're experiencing any kind of food insecurity, you can go right now. You can go get a little bit of help there. And we want to see if we can utilize the garden to kind of get donations of fresh produce over to the food pantry for donations to student food insecurity as well, which is very, very exciting. We have the President's Advisory Council, which we're also working on with our departments, which is really just going to be a hub for student leaders across Greek life, registered student organizations that can just come, have direct communication with us, tell us what your community, what your group is experiencing, the needs of your group are, so we can have just a direct dialogue with students in different communities and make their voice known and kind of let them put things on our radar and us put things on their radar. So that will be very exciting as well. And then we've also been having talks on creating some sort of event that will be in light of COVID-19. It's not necessarily going to be a memorial because COVID-19 is not over. Please get vaccinated. Please mask up. But it is something that we want to do to kind of really have the UNLV, which is at the heart of Las Vegas, have the opportunity to bring people not only from within our university, but outside our university to come together, get more of a sense of kind of spirit for the university and say, these are the lives. This is how many lives were lost in our community in Southern Nevada alone. This is something that we need to battle together, that we need to do as a united front. We need to all do our part and also kind of set, we're still working out the details, but set some sort of message that will remain on UNLV for the future to kind of remember where we're at today in the middle of this pandemic and set a message on how we can, instead of reverting back to how things were normally before, to learn from this experience, the differences that we all experience within the pandemic and move forward in a way that is united. So that's some of the little things that we're working on.
To kind of add on, I think in a more general sense, I think students should expect a presence. And I think that means a physical presence, a social media presence. If you want to know what's going on within CSUN, we will be posting about it, whether it's things that we do, the things that the Senate does. I think it's something that hasn't been as advertised as before. And so expect a presence and also expect us to just be everywhere. We want to go to our events, different student organization events. We want to be helping out at all of these volunteer events. We've already done that. And I think it's just made all the difference in really getting involved in the community because a lot of people don't really care about CSUN, but there's also a lot of people who just don't know we exist.
Yeah.
Even if you're not interested in getting involved, that's completely okay. But you should also, I think every student should know what CSUN can do for them. So that's just a little bit of what I think students should expect this upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.